Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit Snip Glue.
Well, good afternoon. It's Sunday, and just back from church. I'm going to pick up where I left off yesterday. Yesterday, I was able to not only get paint on the body of the pedestal, but also I got all the trim pieces cut to length and got those painted. So today's job is to attach the trim, paint the top, and then move it down into the room and call it done. So I figured since I showed you the beginning of it last week, it was only fair to let you know how it turned out. And here's a finished painted pedestal. Paint is drying. I'll put another coat on the top, probably a protecting coat on top of that. Sorry for the door, but that's the deal. Now just wait for everything to dry and then move it into the display room as it should be. It goes right in there. You in there. You go in there. It is Monday morning and it's time to get back to work, but before I go back to the Star Destroyer, I thought you might like to see the finished Enterprise pedestal / table / everything else catch-all right now in its final resting place with all of its paint and trim upon it. You see the framework for the Enterprise. It's clear here, so it's tough to see. That's the inner skeleton that this skin will go on. And once I get that onto there, this will take up all that much less space. And of course, we have a saucer over in there and electronics and smaller parts in here. So this is finally getting closer to being fruitioned, closer to being worked on, because now I've got the proper display space set up for it. So that was job one this morning. And now we are going to get back to the Star Destroyer. Here is said Star Destroyer. All of this has been, sealed up and drying all weekend, and I've been able to train it and pull it back and do all that kind of fun stuff. There are a few right in here, which are these guys that I've got to get. They were covered up by this knot of fiber before, so I need to pull this out of the way, chase these last ones down, and then it's just getting these done, which I think is going to be an easy goal to get done today. And then I'll be able to start, the next thing to do would be to glue the tower on and then train all of those fibers into manifolds. Yay! It's getting there. Okay, it's getting messier and messier in here, but by trying to keep things organized and gluing them down as I get sections done and taping them off, I think I'm still keeping some semblance of order here. I have almost run out of my first complete spray of fiber optics, so this is only going to take this one and maybe half of the next one to be done. So I'm going to do that's all of the front ones going back that way. I still need to do obviously all of these, but I'm going to do the front ones and then these ones and then side to side, because I think that seems to work the best. But now I'm going to slather the area with tulip. Okay, this morning's work has consisted of getting this front wall and this little U-y thing done. And I'm letting the tulip dry that's holding all of that in place. And then I could start working on the sides. So I'm getting to the point where I'm running in on top of myself, so I either need to do these little sections and then go off and maybe do something on the bottom piece, because I can't really get to these until these have had a chance to dry. So maybe I'll pull out the bottom piece and start working on the long edges. Okay, it took a while too. I got the one side of the bottom piece. I've got the one ledge, one perimeter, one wee edge, but I feel like I should be combing it like a Shetland pony. Those are all of the fibers that are hanging down from the one side, and next thing to do is to simply let that dry in place. Doesn't really pay to tape those down like I did some of the others, so I'll just prop this up like it is and then let all those sides dry and then come back to it tomorrow and do the other side. Here's a fitting end to Monday evening. I've got 3 different sections of Star Destroyer, each propped up so that the fibers can be drying. We'll pick this up again in the morning. Welcome back. It's Tuesday afternoon, as the Moody Blues once famously sung about. And I've not gotten a lot done on the Star Destroyer today because I needed to go out and start picking up supplies for the very manifolds that we will be putting the bulbs in. Things like this. Take the bulb, stick it in a tube, stick that tube over another tube, and then you put your fibers in the tube. I did manage to get all these guys trained. Everything that was in here down into one tube, and there's still lots of room left in there, so I will have more, and I'm trying to decide how many bulbs I'm going to run and what's all going to run off of what bulb and that sort of thing. So I'm happy with the amount that's in here. There may be another one. Well, obviously there's going to be more for the tower once I get attached, things like that. So it's a lot of brain work today, not so much of the heavy lifting. Back, it is Tuesday evening, and I know I couldn't go the full day without doing at least one good section of Star Destroyer, and I got the back string here of this whole back edge, and that's going to allow me to do these sides tomorrow, hopefully. Get back on this. It just takes so darn long, you know, and it's not fun to do, so I get easily distracted from doing it. I find other things that I'd rather do, so having the discipline to do it is actually the hardest part. No matter what Tom Petty says, it's not the waiting is not the hardest part, it's the discipline to go through and do the tedious work. That's the hardest part. Hopefully this will all pay off when I'm done. Welcome back to the never-ending saga of the fiber optics on the Star Destroyer. This is truly epic. I usually don't like taking this long to build a kit, especially a kit this, on the face of it, this simple. But it's just a slog. It's a slog to get through, and it's something you just have to take your time and do. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do at least one side, see how that goes. Set this aside, and then maybe do the other edge of the bottom piece. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just barrel through one of these sides. Okay, a few hours later, and I've got this side all in and pulled tight and drying. The slick is definitely, the tulip slick is definitely a not only more economic but also a less taxing way of doing this job. If I'm thinking back now that if I had to mix up epoxy for each one of these, I would have thrown the whole ship in the garbage by now. I would not have made it this far. I just don't have the patience for this kind of stuff. Oh man, I'm hoping it's going to pay off when it's done, but Lord Almighty. What is today? Today is Wednesday. I've got 2 more days of this, Thursday and Friday, yes. And I should easily get this done, and hopefully there goes the phone. I'll be right back. Okay, the last bit of work I got done on the Star Destroyer for today being Wednesday, and that is getting the bottom side, getting this half at least trained. This may not be the final manifolds, but I'm at least trying to get them organized in a way that I can do the rest of it tomorrow. Should still be able to finish all of the fiber opticking this week, if nothing else. If I don't get the manifold started, I can at least get the fiber optics all trained. Okay, welcome back. It is Thursday now. Wow, this week is going by, and today it is my task, nay, my holy mission, to get this, at least get this part fiber opticed in, and maybe even finish the top. Who knows? I feel like Khan. It tasks me, and I'll have it. I've got to get this done. I'm spending a ridiculous amount of time on it. So enough stalling. Let's just get back to work. See, I've run through two lighters. Just blooming the fiber optics. Good Lord. My poor thumb, just from flicking the lighter. And no, I don't like using a heat gun. A heat gun, it's just a big cumbersome thing, and it takes up space on the workbench, and I just don't like it. It's a burn hazard waiting to happen. This is so much easier. Just flick a lighter and melt down the tips, and off you go. Well, huzzah, half done. All of these are now in, and I need to tulip the bejesus out of them to keep them in place. I can't really pull them tight to tape down because I'm running out of space to put the tape. So I just need to kind of back them all up with tulip and pull them put a little bit of tension on them. All right, the other, the long piece is been tuliped and it's drying in the other room, and I've got to tackle this last row here, which means I've got to take all these ones that I did yesterday and tape them out of the way so that I can get a clean line of attack. Well, I feel like a lion tamer sometimes, but I've got all of these fibers trained, at least out of the way, and all I've got is this last wall to do, and I think I'm going to do it after lunch because I think I might need some stamina before I attempt it, so be back in a bit. Alrighty then, I'm back from lunch with a fresh lighter and a renewed will to live. So let's get on with the last of the fiber optic. Fingers crossed, the last of the fiber opticing. Okay, believe it or not, I have run out of the second spray of fiber optics. I think I got cheated on that one because I got a lot more out of the first one than I ever did out of the second one. It seems to me I got all of the top of the tower and a lot of the bottom out of just the first spray, and now I'm out of the second spray already, and I don't feel I got near as much, but that's just me whining again. So let me go get the third spray and I'll finish up just the few that I've got left. Well, it is about 10 minutes to 4, and that officially makes it forever since I started putting these fiber optics in, but good Lord willing and the creeks don't rise, I think I've got them done. At least to this point. I've got these last ones strung in. I need to put the tulip to it, and then the next stage will be, and I'm hoping to get that done tonight, ooh, wouldn't that be fun and delicious, is to get the tower glued on. Wouldn't that be fun? We'll just have to see how that goes, because that would give me all of tomorrow to start training these fiber optics into the different manifolds, and then probably replacing the one or two that are bound to get snapped off, because you know that's the way it's going to go. So let me get some tulip in there and have some dinner. Break out the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, because I think it's time for a hearty round of hallelujahs. Yes, we are. All of this is being glued in place with the tulip and left to dry overnight. So tomorrow, because I am just sick of looking at it, tomorrow we will pick it up and put more of it together. How about that? Look at this mess. It's turning into a bionic spaghetti bowl. I commented the other day to somebody that it looked like that scene in Alien where they had after they had taken Ash's head off and they were trying to reconnect it. That's what this kind of reminds me. All of the fibers laying strewn about, and that's with some measure of control on it. Once I cut those tapes, it's just going to spray all over. So the carnage will happen tomorrow. Welcome back, cats and kittens. It's Friday, or as I'm calling it, Fiber Friday. Not Cyber Monday, but Fiber Friday. This is where I'm at right now. I've got a couple of brass tubes cut off and taped down and otherwise secured, and I'm training fibers to go into smaller tubes to gather them together to ask the Lord's blessings. We gather together. And there goes the phone. Sorry about that. Hold on. I'm back. You know, I leave a message on my machine that says, hey, leave a message if you want to talk to me. Obviously, they don't. I hate getting sales calls, but I hate answering sales calls even more. Anyway, back to this. This is going to be my test case. A, because it is fairly self-contained and it has all of the earmarks of the problems that I'm going to be running into or on the rest of the ship. So if I can get the procedure knocked out on this, then I think I am going to be in good stead for the rest of the ship with the parts that are more cumbersome to handle. And what I've done is I've gathered all of the fibers from the entire head down into this one bundle. And I'm going to run it off of a single 10 millimeter LED, bright white LED. What I've got here is a tube inside a tube. I've got a brass tube around the fibers, and I've got a plastic tube over the brass. What I'd like to do is to glue with epoxy, clear epoxy, gang all of this together, and inside the brass tube. And then once that's done, I will chop these off flat, slide this over it, pour more epoxy down into it from that side, and then stick the 10-inch or the 10 mil LED, which is designed to be this right same size as this plastic tube, down into the end of that, thereby making one solid shaft of epoxied together fiber with a bulb stuck in the end of it. So I am obviously not going to be doing this on camera, because if it turns out to be an embarrassing mess, I don't want to show that to anybody. But of course, if it comes out as a bright idea, I will proclaim it and say, yes, I was planning to do that all along. So let's do this experiment and see how well it works. I'm going to do it with mixed up 5-minute epoxy. And if it works, I may move over to the 1-minute epoxy. The reason I don't start with 1-minute epoxy right away is because it only comes with 2 of those mixing little tubes that it comes with, and I don't know how long this is going to take. And if you don't use those mixing tubes all at once, then they clog up and they're basically useless. So I have more working time with the 5-minute epoxy, obviously, and that's what I'm going to do. If I find out I can get it down to a shorter amount of time, then I may switch over. Okay, so far so good. I've got, I taped this down into position, and I took some mixed up epoxy and just jammed it down in and amongst there and tried to make sure that it was spread between the fibers and not just laying on top of them. And also on the same at the bottom. Now I'm going to take the Dremel and cut that off flat so that I maximize the amount of light hitting the ends of each, or as many of the LED fiber optics as possible. It's going to go something like this. The tube is going to overlap, and the bulb is going to be up against it like that. So taking my time, don't want to rush it. This is 5-minute stuff. It takes longer to set up. So going to count my chickens now and plan the next step and try not to rush through this. Okay, the epoxy's had time to set up. I'm going to cut a nice even line across there with the Dremel with the cutting wheel. Oh, I've got really good news to give you. Really good news. Now you're going to have to forgive me because I'm doing this with one hand tied behind my back, the other one attached to a camera, and the third one picking my nose. It is a complicated thing to do. Here is where we're at. I've got the epoxy has all set up. I have cut the barrel. Let me put the camera down here so maybe you can see. I have cut the barrel nice and even and flat, which has given the effect of one big old honkin' fiber optic sticking out of there. There's a gap in that fiber optic bundle that I will fill in with epoxy. But here's the deal. Put the tube over to act as a bridge. There you go. I take the 10 millimeter fiber optic, shove it in the hole. Now this is where everything's temporary because I'm going to glue all of this together, epoxy it all together. But that's in the hole, crammed up against the end of the fiber optic bundle. I'm running a 12 volt power source through said LED, and this is where things get a bit precarious now. See, look what happens. Made me fall out. I am going to, there, now you can see the lit LED. There. That's doing its job. And when you turn the whole thing over, hold on one second. Okay, here we go. Lit LED, holding on to it, to the cable. Now, one indecent proposal here, and you have bam shamalama, you have lit windows in your Star Destroyer. Let me turn off the overhead light so you can see it in its glory even better. Now I gotta redo. Okay, color balance has been restored, and again we'll try this with the lights off, and there you go. Not shoe tabby. There we go. Changed it down to a 9-volt because the resistor was getting a little warm. But that's doing exactly what it should be doing. So now we know that principle is sound. I can carry it over to the rest of the ship. Hallelujah. Okay, we're working it. This manifold here is epoxy down. I've got the big bulb in there. I'm getting ready to do the same thing with a smaller bulb here. And really the last thing to do on the bottom is to glue in the big bank of lights for the main engines in the back. So I'm going to let that epoxy cure for a while, snip that off, put the bulb to it, get those wired together, and then we're going to put this in today. This is coming right along. I don't know yet. I've got some work started on the top, getting these guys trained. But I don't know exactly yet how much of that to get done. I do know that I have to back up and replay in my head my plans, because I had planned on adding the tower to this piece and then adding all of that to here. And I'm thinking, no, that can't be the best way to do it. What I need to do, because the tower is such an independent module, what I need to do is put these two halves together, this half and this half, and then bring all of, because that'll still give me this big open hole to work all of the fibers through and get to the power and all of that. So then I can add the tower building on top of that when I am done. If I had joined the tower to that, I would have these two halves laying next to each other, and it would be a lot more awkward and cumbersome. And no one needs awkward and cumbersome. We want to be smooth and uncumbered. So that's the next step. I'll let this cure. I'm trying to move a little bit quickly because things are going well, and that's generally a no-no. So let the epoxy do its due here, and we'll come back and put this in. I'm not going to finish it today, but by Yump and Yiminy, we're going to have at least something lighted and fancy to show you, and then that's going to be nice. Okay, folks, it's not pretty, but it's lighting up. Look at that. Look at that bridge. Beautiful. All that comes down to a bulb there, all the way up the sides. And this is the idea that I want. Not that it's a disco light, not that it's a beacon that's, that's blinding, but that it is producing light when you look at that side. It's not, shining out all over the place. It's when you get off of the angle, you're not looking directly at it, you don't see the lights. And here, of course, is, hold on, the back engines, the important big guys. Those are all still working. And this is lighting up. This one bulb here is lighting up this much of both sides. And the second bulb is lighting up this much of both sides. This guy does not have any lights on it yet. Well, I mean, it's not hooked up to anything yet. Maybe I will take the power off of this and put it onto that, see how it looks. Give me a moment. Okay, there's the light on the top shining down to the sides of the secondary buildings there on the before you get to the tower. So that does not include any of these fronts. That's a different section, and the backs are a different section, but that's both of these sides. And now the one of the unfortunate facts is that in all of this jostling around, some of the fiber optics have been poked back out this way, and those can be easily nipped off after the painting's done. But you know, and some of them get snapped off. That's just inevitable when you're manhandling these things. So you know, you take your wins when you get them. But that's looking good. That's a man's work for 1 week. I tell you, getting all those in and lit up, and we'll be able to finish this up next week, no problem. Nice. Looks like a little city at night. And I think that's enough. That's enough damage for 1 week. I think that's going to be where we're going to leave it for the week. Not quite as pretty as I would have liked to have left it, but you know, you don't want to rush things at this stage, because you think these things could take a lot of punishment. They really can't. You know, you might find them snapping or otherwise going awry, and that's heartbreaking. You don't want to go at this point. You don't want, when you've got this many stinking fiber optics strung in place, you don't want to run the risk of doing something that's really going to muck up the works. So you take your time, you be careful, you be methodical about it. I guess methodical is the operative word of the week, because once you find a method that works, you stick with it. Now you deal with you deal with it by section. You put the light, you drill the holes in sections, you string the fibers in sections, you tape them down, you glue them in, you put the bulb to them in sections, so that any one bit of it doesn't get to be too overwhelming. And that's our lesson for the week. So until next time, when we'll be going into an unprecedented, fifth week. I guess this is part 4, so a 5th week. I generally don't take this long with kits, but you know, I'm getting old. I'm taking my time. Plus this mind-numbing drilling and filling of holes. Anyway, until next week, when we might get this thing closed up, I will ask you to be good to each other, and you know, go out and build a model. See you next time.